Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Today's video will be in English for the English-speaking world. My name is Christian Bernd Alber. Today it's Sunday, the 5th of January 2020. If you wonder why my English is so good, let me tell you that I've been living at least a quarter of my life in the English-speaking world. I've even started a PhD in Australia some years ago. I wanted to talk to you, inform you about the German situation. There's hardly anybody in the whole world that can tell you the real German situation as much and as precise as I can do, politically speaking. I'm an authorized German legal expert by the German Reichs-Court from the German Reich, German Imperial Reich. I had been appointed and accepted in 2014 based on the allied implementation of Dr. Wolfgang Gerhard Günther Ebel as Reichs-Chancellor and Plenipotentiary in 1985. You might all recall that we had some sort of nearly civil war and unrest in Berlin during the 1980s, and because of the DDR, the Socialist Republic of East Germany, as well as the illegal criminal Federal Republic of West Germany, tried to take over the German Reichsbahn, the German train transport system in Berlin, East and West. The train Reichsbahn officials, the train officials, revolted and have been trying and protected the Reichsbahn from this illegal takeover from these two political systems in the East and West. You, the Allies, have always hated these two illegal systems because these two systems never worked on a constitutional basis. They had been illegal since the beginning, and we have a lot of proof, for example, that President John F. Kennedy, probably the last correct constitutional US president, or that I believe the last correct US president that we had, he said that we cannot trust these criminal Germans or these German political systems anymore. They would steal once again the nuclear bomb from us. That happened during his, or he told that, John F. Kennedy told that during his speech during his visit in Berlin, I think in the late 50s or 60s, when he also said that he's a Berliner. So we have to go very deeply into the matter in order to show you, the world, the English-speaking world, and you, the Allies, that you are the criminals right now betraying our imperial German Reich. You implemented this Dr. Wolfgang Ebel in 1985 as you appointed him as as transport minister of all of the German rail network, as well as later appointed him as Reichs-Chancellor and Plenipotentiary for all of Germany in 1987. That happened through a telephone call from Miss Robinson from the US Department of Washington or Berlin to Mr. Ebel. He already had been placed into his official state residency that was part of the Reichsbahn, a bigger 2 or 3 story building in Königsweg 1, not 4. People always, because it's written on the street, it's number 4, but in the imperial system 100 years ago, that was the house number 1. And US Oicom and many other organizations, groups, military governments have written to him and called him in a correct way as Reichs-Chancellor, Plenipotentiary, and the leading person for the re-establishment of Prussia, brackets Free State Prussia. You, the Allies, had declared war against the Third German Reich that had been founded illegally based on the Constitution of Weimar. We Germans can logically follow your thinking that the taking over of the National Socialist Democratic Party, NSDAP, and Adolf Hitler was unconstitutional, was funded by banking systems, illegal, criminal, unconstitutional banking systems that range from the illegal Bank for International Settlements, the BIS in Basel, as well as from banking families from America, UK, Belgium, and so on. Your criminal own Zionist banking families and gangster families like the Clintons, the Bushes, and all of them, they had all been in bed with the Third Reich, and they had been in bed with this illegal Federal Republic of Germany Third Reich system until today. Prescott Bush, the father of George Bush I, he was a great fan of the National Socialist Democratic Party, and in fact he was an agent from the Bank for International Settlements and organized through the American banking system of the illegal Federal Reserve Bank the funding of Hitler and the Nazi Party. Particularly the Bushes have been working with Rothschild and Rockefeller, who have also been were also great supporters and funders of this illegal Third Reich. One has to remember that we in Germany have been having kings and emperors during a 2000-year period. These German kings and emperors have often been identical to our German identity, being the Saxons, the Swabians, the Bavarians, the different German tribes. You yourself have been settled by a number of German ancestors and German migrants. We believe from the statistics that the whole English-speaking world is composed of at least 20 to 40% of German ancestry from the different German tribes, including the Anglos and the Saxons in the UK, that have likewise been suppressed by this fake illegal criminal banking supported, let me tell you straight words, New World Order. Your politicians, your monarchies and all have been corrupted to that point that they have become full instruments of the Rothschild Rockefeller Bank for International Settlements New World Order. We have to go back to your good suggestion and your good works in 1985 when you helped to implement this higher Reichsbahn official Dr. Wolfgang Ebel as Reichs-Chancellor and Plenipotentiary for Germany, after having appointed him already to the position of Reichs-Transport Minister, because you have understood that the striking and the civil war and the trying to overtaking trials from the East German system and the West German system of the railway system in Berlin has even brought Berlin to a standstill, and so the Reichsbahn officials, the train system workers, they rebelled, and they have been trying to protect their own Reichsbahn from these two illegal political systems. And Dr. Ebel, being one of these, or having been one of these Reichsbahn officials, then managed to somehow calm down this strike and revolution, and he somehow managed to get into the British embassy with the help of some British police, fake British police officials, and they then made the connection to all the other embassies from the Allied powers in Berlin, and then after having understood that Mr. Ebel was very well capable of understanding the legal implications of all of this taking over and striking within the Reichsbahn, they then made sure that Dr. Ebel got promoted to these positions for the German Reich. The German Reich at that moment consists of some remainders of the Imperial Reich. The Imperial Reich goes back to the kings and emperors, but we had during and after World War I some sort of revolution. We got pulled into this World War I by the Austrian Habsburg gangsters, who in fact Prince Archduke Ferdinand, or what was his name, this children of the kings of Austria, they got actually shot from the balcony in Yugoslavia, in one of these Yugoslavian cities, Sarajevo, and that then had by a Serbian shooter, and we believe that this Serbian shooter was an agent of this criminal banking cartel, Nazi banking cartel, including the Rothschild Rockefellers, and later on the Bank for International Settlements, and so on. So having had a cooperation treaty between the Kingdom of Austria-Hungary and German Empire, we then got pulled into World War One, because Austria-Hungary declared war against nearly all of Europe, and we got pulled into this. And the German Emperor actually didn't like to get pulled into that, but because he was a military official, he had to follow the military procedure of accepting this military alliance and fighting against the so-called enemies, which were in fact not our real enemies. But later on, he actually left for the Dutch and Belgian parts, and observed the whole thing from there, and rejected constantly, repeatedly, that he was not in favor of all what has been going on. And he also has been in communication with the NSDAP and a Nazi party and Adolf Hitler, and told also them by telephone or written messages that he has not been approving all of that. But this political scenario has been continuing and has not been could not be stopped anymore. And so we have been in constant revolution until today. We had World War One, World War Two, and millions of people were killed on all sides. And the Allies must have understood, particularly the American diplomatic partners, including Ambassador Richard Byrd, Ambassador John Christian Kornblum, as well as Ernst Macheko from the US Department of State, that Dr. Ebel was the right person to count on. They were also somehow behind his implementation and appointment to Reichs-Transport Minister and Reichs-Chancellor and Plenipotentiary of the German Reich in the time frame of 1985 to 1987. And they have understood that we need to go back to our constitutional German Reich that got hijacked then by the SPD, leftist socialists, and NSDAP, and current political fake multi-party system, in order to go back to the German constitution of 1919, which in fact was already a revolution against the imperial constitution of 1871, a hijacking. But at least the Allies understood that we need to have a real constitution, so we were sent back through Dr. Ebel to the constitution of 1919, the Weimar Constitution, from the so-called short Weimar Republic, because this was a real constitution representing the German state in form of the German Reich, of the left remaining parts of the German Empire, German Imperial Empire. And this Dr. Ebel then tried until 2014, until his disappearance or death in December 2014, to reorganize and restore this German Empire on behalf of the Germans and on behalf of the Reichsbahn and on behalf of you, the Allies. But now the big but, and I want to underline it, but you, the Allies, have somehow let him down. You, the Allies, have somehow forgotten about your ambassadorial work. You, the Allies, have somehow not informed the United Nations after 2014 that we are still in the German Reich, German Empire, based on the Constitution of 1919, that got actually revised in 2005, 2006 by the Dr. Ebel German Reich government and approved by the UN and you, the 5 Allies. But you have somehow forgotten all of that. That means that you, the Allies, and I can only observe the Obama regime, the Trump regime, the Clinton regime, the Queen Elizabeth fake monarchy, the Putin oligarchy, the Gerhard Schröder dictatorship, the Angela Merkel dictatorship, the Helmut Kohl dictatorship, the EU suppressive fake New World Order system, the transatlantic fake militaristic criminal banking finance dictatorship, NATO, this illegal criminal military alliance fake dictatorship. That all goes apparently somehow back to the Bank of International Settlements, and the Bank of International Settlements being the bank of all banks, according to the book of Adam Labor from it's a British writer, who has based his works on other famous works like the work from one of the American authors, Jekyll Island, The Monster of Jekyll Island, and so on. They have all been writing about criminal banking monster that has been growing after it got established basically in 1912 and 1913 on the Jekyll Island, a secret meeting of the banking gangster families of the Morgans, Rothschilds and Rockefellers. And they then, as you know and recall in history, have then established, because the American Congress had been on vacation and only a few corrupted congressmen had been left, and they pushed through the Federal Reserve Act as well as the IRS Act, where the illegal internal revenue service got enacted. So these two monsters of the United States fake criminal corporation then got implemented to serve as the finance arm of this illegal criminal New World Order. And after they have then, as I had told you, financed Adolf Hitler, because they said we Germans had been responsible for World War I, implemented also the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, with the help of the Vatican and NATO alliance partners, and then have been able to secretly fund until today all governments, and they actually managed to privatize the whole world through that. What we in Germany know as the 1990 privatization and the stealing of assets through the East German Democratic Republic regime that were later in few parts returned through the so-called Treuhand system to a few original owners. But let me tell you that these owners had to pay great sums in order to get back their stolen houses, castles and so on. You then established this new world order, and there's one of your criminal fake presidents, being George Bush I, who has repeatedly spoken at the fake criminal United Nations to the world that we are now in a new world order, already in 2000, 2005, during his Somalia wars, where I was still at high school, and that was even before 2000, and since then we have been having wars and wars and wars, and all that you allies have been doing was financing wars, killing people, slaughtering people, lying to the whole world, and abusing the possibly correct United Nations for your own benefit. You have removed good people like Saddam Hussein, like Muammar Gaddafi. You have invaded the Iraq because the Iraq was allegedly storing weapons of mass destruction, but it was all a lie, and we know it. And even your American soldiers have been committing suicide in great numbers because they knew from the beginning that there was no weapon of mass destruction. All that your leaders like criminal George Bush II, his defense minister Donald Rumsfeld, and all the other German genetic gangster stuff that you have been employing, they have all been interested in the so-called Stargate that was or is located in Irkutsk, or what's the name, one of the old Babylonian cities in Iraq. And you have been crying from what you have been reading in the Bible that King Nebuchadnezzar or any other Babylonian Iraqi king once were able to do some time travel or stuff with this old monolithic stone structure that has apparently been a Stargate. But anyway, you have been using wars and lies and oil wars because you said that you're interested in business and in the oil of this region, just for the purpose of getting actually this Stargate technology, even though you stole this Stargate technology already from us Germans during World War II, because we know for sure that the Third Reich had been in possession of a lot of advanced technologies, including this Stargate technology. We Germans had constructed the time travel bell instrument that was like a bell, and one of these time traveling bells you could enter through a door and through in a laboratory, push some buttons, and then you got teleported into another dimension or time. And one of these bells apparently landed, or emergency landed, in Pennsylvania in the 1960s, and your CIA and Secret Service located the bell, surrounded the whole territory, confiscated the wealth, probably killed the German time travelers, and then have been using this technology yourself. Their time traveling seems to be real, was also confirmed through your project in Manhattan, in New York, in the 70s, through two brothers who got teleported away on one of the American ships. It's not the Manhattan Project, the Manhattan Project was the nuclear bomb project. It has a famous name, and these two brothers, they jumped over the railing from the teleporting ship while the ship was already dissolving itself in this reality, and it was already starting to heat up and burning. And since these two military officers on this ship, who were actually brothers, got into the history book, in your American history books, Malik brothers, or Malik, they wrote a book, and they jumped overboard and swam back to the harbor of New York, and they already got teleported away 10 years into the future. Albilek brothers. It's called the Montauk Project or something like that, and they survived the teleporting, and whereas the whole ship with the remaining crew, it melted and burned, and it also arrived in the future and sank on the ocean ground. So the Iraqi wars and the Libya wars and the Syria wars, and it's all, for you, it's just a money-making machine, since you can send millions of soldiers, since you can use this group against this group and this group against this group, and then you can supply weapons to all sides, and your money-making machine, your war machine, can profit from this in great number. Even the Russians have been participating in this great money-making machine, but also the Russian Russian Federation fake criminal corporate system, undermined by gangsters like Gorbachev and oil barons like Gorbachev and Vladimir Putin, and they have all been making money through that. That was the sole and main purpose of all of these wars. Putin, as you know, is a big gangster. He has stolen all the assets from the oil companies in Russia, the oil and gas companies, Gazprom, and he's working with German and American gangsters like Gerhard Schröder, who was one of these illegal criminal dictator chancellors that we had after the dissolution of this illegal Federal Republic of Germany and of this East German Socialist Republic of Germany. The Allies actually dissolved these two systems under the leadership of your Foreign Minister James Baker and Foreign Minister Eduard Shevardnadze from the Soviet Union on your Paris conference on 17th July 1990, as you can remember. And you had actually, as I had told you many times before, implemented and appointed the higher Reichsbahn official Dr. Wolfgang Ebel as Reichs-Transport Minister, Reichs-Chancellor and Plenipotentiary in 1985 to 1987. So, but still you continue to work with this illegal multi-party system. You don't value the German Reich that got then rebuilt under the Wolfgang Ebel leadership. And since the disappearance or death of Dr. Wolfgang Ebel in December 2014, you have been working even stronger with the Angela Merkel dictatorship, and Angela Merkel dictatorship has been funded through the illegal European Central Bank with a fake euro that got implemented on behalf of the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. You have been working with Angela Merkel, and Angela Merkel has been supporting all the wars, accepting all the weapons from the CIA, MI5, from the Russians that have been channeled through Germany to Syria, to Iraq, to even make this war bigger and to make it more crazy. You have been disrespecting our human rights in Germany, your fake illegal Federal Republic of Germany, and your Angela Merkel dictatorship. You have been really having our nerves very tense. We don't like all this political system anymore, since we Germans want to be free. We want to have back, since more than 100 years, we want to have back our German Imperial Reich that Dr. Ebel has tried to build up step by step based on this 1919 constitution, so that at least we can constitutionally go back based on this German Reich, and then maybe later on have a Volksreferendum or have a decision by the Volksbundesrat from the Imperial German Reich. It's a constitutional pillar of the German Reich, to have us then adopt the Constitution of 1871. As I said, the Emperor never abdicated, the Emperor never approved the socialist, communist, criminal, capitalist, fake revolution that has been going on since 100 years in the whole world. And also the Russian Tsar, his cousin, actually never approved this revolution that actually immediately led to his execution. And I would want to go back actually even some 100 years more in time, that the French kings and emperors also never approved all of that. If you're a French scholar and you're aware of French history, you might remember that Louis XIV, who built your Versailles Castle, that got then criminally or illegally used by the German Emperor William II to crown himself in some sort of military ceremony, which was somehow very an affront to your à votre nation. You have probably also not understood or realized that Ludwig XIV, he was a great fan and benefactor for your nation. His wife Marie Antoinette, she was also a great fan and supporter of France, and she has been understanding these two, that the French Revolution and then the taking over of Napoleon I was financed by Rothschild Rockefeller, particularly Rothschilds, who had been the cashiers of the House of Hessen, of the Dukes of Hessen. They allowed the Jewish Zionist Khazaric fake Jews Rothschild family to take over the finances of this kingdom, small kingdom of Hessia. And that's why the Hessian troops had also been involved during the American Civil War and the defeat of the American nation, together with the British on behalf of the Vatican and on behalf of the Rothschild Rockefeller banking families. And so you have been corrupted too. Your parliament, your republic is not a real French republic. It's being financed since day one by the Rothschilds, who then later on financed your Napoleon I, and who then bought the Bank of England, and who then took over the British Parliament and the British monarchy. That's why it's a theater until today. That's why Queen Elizabeth, she's not a real monarch. She has been paying the Vatican to be the Vatican agent of the monarchy, of the crown in the UK, and she has been doing a lot to support the illegal, fake, criminal banking system. She's been working hand in hand with Lord Rothschild, Jacob Rothschild, in London, and she's been working hand in hand with the fake criminal Rothschild baby Israel, and she's been working hand in hand with the Vatican. The Queen and her husband, even though they claim to have German ancestry, they are Rothschild's agents over and over, and they are simulating all this propaganda that they are so great royals. In fact, they have been murdering Princess Diana through the MI5 on behalf of the Queen and her husband Prince Philip. They have been murdering the other guy who sat in the car when the car with Princess Diana and her two Muslim boyfriends crashed, because the MI5 used enormous amounts of lights to blind them, and so they crashed against one of the tunnels in the UK in London, and died in that accident. And you have been a lot of harm to the Muslim population in the UK. Troops have stationed in Syria